So now that we've adjusted the nighttime plate, which is basically this group, now we're going to actually start adding lights to our scene. So basically, if you look in here, I've started to organize my lights in layers, basically groups. So I have the background, this church right here, and then I have some global color fills. So let me just turn off everything and then I'll show you what I've done. So here I've made a color fill set to normal, and if you look down here you can see what it is. It's basically giving like an ambient glow in the courtyards and the streetways of the city. Now this city is pretty dense, so we don't actually see many of the actual streets through here, but we do know that in between these buildings there will be walkways, and what we're trying to do is illuminate, give the sense that there's like gas lamps and windows that are on in the building so that people are still awake and going about their business. And since we're trying to do a 15th century Florence, we know we want inherently the color of the light to be a warm yellow, red, orange. Not anything incandescent, not anything basically modern. So basically what I've done is made a global color fill and set it to overlay. And then I've basically just selected a warm tone. And then basically if I hit command, you can actually see the mask that I used to paint this. And basically what I am doing is using these paths that I've already created, and then Control Shift I to invert, and then Control H to hide, and then I can paint inside the mask those kind of glows. So if you look down here with a brush, a soft brush, low opacity, 20%, 20%, and then if I just slowly paint a couple strokes, you'll just see it start to warm up. And the main thing to keep in mind is the planes. So the rooftops are going to be the most not affected by the light source of the streets, unless you kept these little skylights. Then these might be on and casting light glows from here, but basically primarily the warm light is going to be coming from below up. So you want this to kind of gradate stronger at the base and then lessen as it gets up towards the top. And then you'll need to make sure that each plane starts to feel like the light source, is either affecting everything in this plane and then everything on this plane. And all I did basically was set up two light glows. This one has more of a bright yellow, and I believe this one is set to overlay as well. And what you can do is once you've created your global mask for everything, what I would typically do is have the hotter yellow affect less. So basically, if you command shift and you have that much fall off, what you can do is select, modify, contract by maybe like 3 or 5 pixels, shrink it down. You might have to reselect because here right now it's actually eaten into over here, but the outside glow will be okay. And then redo your mask that basically it'll affect the smaller region. Now, let's see what else we've got here. I've got the background right here, which you can't see. And this is basically light glow in the distance of the city. And now, again, because this is 15th century, you might want to be very careful with this, but these are the city lights that I've made. I have this as a screen mode. The original reference image was this. And I just selected some elements within there and then placed them roughly where buildings are in the distance. You can get away with a little bit in the far, far distance, but almost something more like little dots sprinkled here and there to basically look like lights or gas lamps in the distance, and then you can just scale as you need to. And again, this is set as screen. Now another thing that I do also is anything that is a light source, I'll typically also do a separate layer for glows so that I can independently change the opacity and the effect of the glow. And here you can see it's a very low opacity, 23%. Again, at screen. Typically, brush select whatever is the inherent color that I get within the color picker, and then do, a little bit of a glow around it. Anything in the way distance, I tend to give it a loose glow, and it basically affects like the region of it. And then you just want a very small, shallow area affected. And I also used a mask on this to cut into that glow. Because anytime you have a building obscuring something, and again, this is actually covering a great distance, that these would occlude any kind of glows from that. And then I would do glows for this and windows on. And here, as you're, basically more mid-ground to foreground, we can actually see more windows. So like right here, I started to actually place very much more specific. So I would put windows in all of these, or glows and bright hot spots in some of these, and you want to vary it so it looks more natural. Now let's go to this church, and you can see what I've done here. If I open up the church and turn off, let's see, turn off glow, window. So what I've actually done is I've made a curve just for the windows themselves. And if you look within here, church windows, these are the masks that I've made for that. And then I've also, let's see, there's more windows, other windows. So you just take the time and make all your masks. I typically do this at once, just to get rid of the laborious part. And then basically this element I placed within that mask and, transformed a reference image of a window. Right now it's set to screen, but if you go to normal, you'll see, oh, wrong layer. Lighter color is what I'm using. Now if I go up to normal, dissolve normal, please. There we go. This is the window that I cut. And basically I wanted something that kind of had that stained glass look. And you can see here, if we go back and turn off night, we don't really have any one window because it's light outside and dark inside. You can see that it's some kind of stained glass, but we can't really readily see the window, which is why I made these. Again, turn back on night. So basically you want to make sure they all fall in the perspective of the building. You can, again, if they're stained glass, they're relatively going to be similar, but I would probably clone out some of these, elements that give away that it's the same window repeated, mostly because that looks like a crack, so that kind of gives it away. And then here, you just occlude whatever buildings are out front, and then carry it through to make sure they all feel like they have the same dimension. And then I did a separate layer where I wanted to give a little variance to the window. So if I go back, and I think I said this was lighter color, I think. Let's try color dodge to screen. Sometimes screen works, or lighting, any one of the lighter operations. And then you go to brights. See, you can here see I just tried to add a little bit where they would be brighter or less. You could even add a mask to the window itself. Maybe in this vicinity on the top. Switch to black. My mode was screen, so let's go normal. You just don't want it to look fake, but maybe this one's got a little bit of darkness in the top, like that room's not affected. And then you can add bright hits, and then now glows. Again, since the light is on in this window and it's nighttime outside, there will be a glow emanating from each window. And again, to keep them separate, you can vary the opacity on that glow. Maybe the light source isn't that strong when it comes across. Sometimes what you can do is I'll separate the glows if it's really close up, and I'll have a, I hate that when it goes too close for a zoom. Like sometimes I'll do a glow where it's basically an inner, like very tight to the edge of the element. So very much hugs around the sides. And then you get the fall off glow that will emanate further beyond. So let's say if I do that, and again, I'm always pretty much never using 100% on my glows. And it doesn't look like much, but you know, it basically hugs around that edge warp of our window that basically looks a little too jagged. Now if we zoom out, it doesn't look too bad from here, and you get a sense of it. But again, our lights group we want to pass through, so everything within this layer group and everything here is this. You could color correct within each group if you want to make it more apparent that you're in here, that okay, the church is this, the background is, let's go green, so that way you can easily see what's what. And then our global glows down here. Now basically with our global glows, usually what I like to do is paint through and get all those working. Then I would do the separate lighter, hotter core. And then as you can see in here, we would definitely do the same idea as the church and do the windows. And you want to pick and choose. So find areas like maybe this window's on, but maybe this one is off, and the fall off of the light source in that window is going from screen left to screen right. So go darker here. Maybe this one's on, but this one's not. And you just want to add variance as you go through. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 windows it looks like here. And then sometimes what I will do is I'll add a curve that blows out everything right here, where it's just basically really going over bright so I could see and then easily turn back off if I'm working on things. Like another part would be this inner part of the front facade window of this. Or while you're working, you can just easily click on and off. And you can see most of our windows facing us are in the shadows, so you're not really going to be able to tell exactly. These are a little bit easier to discern. But you can see there's a lot of little windows throughout that you can actually use to have peppered lights on and off as we go through here. And again, like, you don't want them all on at the same intensity. You basically got to think like, okay, maybe this room is a bedroom, maybe this is a living room or dining room, and this light might be on, this light might have a less intense light, and then so on and so on. But you can have fun, like I was saying before, with like where you want the street lights are. Like this is a large tree, so maybe within here there's open ground area, and then this would get brighter. So if we go back to our glows, you know, and again, I'll just do this quick right now, but you always want to have some type of mask to occlude the buildings that you can go back to. I'll just make this larger. And then hide it. And then B. X to switch to your foreground so you'll eat into it. 20%, 20%. And you'll slowly see this build up brighter. Now you might have to do more with this because of the tree itself. Might need to have like underlighting for this and stuff. And then let's add one more since I have this mask. I'll make this screen. And then paint screen. And you might want a hotter center. And then now again, you don't want to go full intensity. Glow. And it may not look like much, but as you start to pepper within here, what you really want is you want to start to get separation between each of the different areas, so you feel like, you know, there's streets dividing these different buildings. And then I've also made rooftops. I haven't finished it, but typically the rooftops, if I control click on this and hide, typically the rooftops are going to be darker than what's below. I mean, they are getting this moonlight, but if we're increasing the brightness on the side facades for the streets, you could then make a light layer mask back into our night and then just knock down the roofs a little bit. So basically that's kind of the common idea of a nighttime scene, and that's it for now.